the whole spreadsheet doesn't work. That's why you got to have 200. So I guess I just explained to people that buy it from me that those guys, you really just have to look a little deeper into them and, contact me if you have questions about where they sit in standings and stuff, but it's coming. I got like 7 spreadsheets all linked to one trying to make it work.
What's your method of...
I pull those stats from PGA Tour, so into one whole big sheet, and then just index match them.
Stop, because I want to talk about this live on the thing.
Okay.
These are the questions that I think the people are here for, so... Tell me, okay, first and foremost, tell me what's the best way, if I downloaded this to Excel, what's the best way to sort it? Can I just use the normal sort and filter, or is it going to blow up?
Yeah, sort and filter seems to work good with it.
Okay,
I know,
all right.
Eric, you had it there once. You had some trouble with the sort. I know for best results, I've been telling people just to download in the Google Sheets form. And then just I go to File and then make a copy, and just make a copy of it so that it's editable.
Okay.
Because I know Excel really screwed it, and that's why I switched from Excel to Google Sheets.
Yeah, I keep it in Google Sheets too.
Fantastic. So I think we're live now, and you guys, those of you who are just jumping in, which is probably all of you, are catching the tail end of a conversation we're having about a spreadsheet that Chris was kind enough to send to me for the first time this week. So, the spreadsheet nerd in me is going to start asking questions here. It may take the entire hour. No, it won't. But, okay, so first and foremost, talk to me about how you're getting these... Well, okay, even more first and foremost, where are you getting this spreadsheet, and where can the people of the chat get this spreadsheet to look at?
Yeah, I do it myself and sell it on the spreadsheet kind of as a premium access for daily fantasy sports rankings. And it started back when I started writing. It was early last season, PGA Tour season. I was just doing it for myself before I even started writing. Just kind of, I wanted to know 5 key stats every week on guys to help me better pick when I was playing DFS. And it quickly just came 5 stats into 15 into 20, and then it got to the point where I had tournament history and current form all in the same sheet. And I pull all that from PGA Tour. .com, and then just do some index matching spreadsheet stuff. And when I started, I was not a spreadsheet guru at all. I did a lot of Googling. I read a lot of spreadsheets for dummies kind of books and shit, and just kind of learned along the way and kind of try and add a little bit each week. But eventually got to the point where I wanted to say, okay, well, I think this is important this week, so I did some more searching and put a whole weighted system in there to kind of weight the stats and then weight the current form, tournament history, and the stats all together into one, just to kind of break it down to one number and ranking.
Okay, so for the people at home, talk about indexing and what that means.
It's just pretty much putting a whole bunch of stats on one spreadsheet, and it goes on for probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cells, all the different PGA Tour stats. And then on the main spreadsheet for strokes gained total, strokes gained tee to green, for the first guy, I'm just going to go in and match that so that it looks over in the other sheet for that stat compared to that guy, so what stat is associated with Patrick Reed, and then I just copy that down the sheet so that all I have to do every week is erase the names, just double check that all the formulas are still there, and then if they are, all I got to do is enter the new field for next week, and it just populates all the stats for all the guys up to, like, I think I've got like 25 stats on there now from the PGA Tour. And then the big difference once you do that is, for me, is it's because of all the ties, it's got all the T's there. So then I just go through and do like a, what is it called here, advanced find and replace, and go remove all those T's so that it's just down to a number so that it can break down into an average.
Okay, so question number 2. I assume that you are mining...
That's question 3.
Okay, for those keeping track at home, you're mining this data from PGAtour.com?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
So tell me about your process for grabbing this data, and if you have any tips and tricks for that.
It is. I'm going to see if I can find the actual formula that I use. I'm just going to open one up here, one of the stats columns. I believe it's called. I think there's a couple different ways you can do it, but I use import HTML, and that's just like an equals import HTML, and then you give it and tell it what column you're going to put the link to whatever website you're pulling stats from. So in this case, I just go to the stats on the PGA Tour website, copy and paste the link at the top of the page for that individual stat, and then I put it into that column so that it says import HTML B2. So in B2, I will put that link, and then when I put that link in, I actually have to go and tell it that I'm looking for a table, and then what table on that site, on the PGA Tour site, I'm trying to grab. So in this case, for most of these stats, I believe it's table number 2. So then once I do that, it just every week, I don't have to go in. When I first started this, I would go every week after the tournament on Sunday and literally go through every guy in the field next week and update every stat individually. It took like 5 hours. I was up to like 4 in the morning Sunday night trying to do it until I figured this out.
Did you type them in, or did you
Yes.
copy and paste them, or how?
No,
you typed
I typed them in. And then
Okay.
I got to a point where I would put the names side by side and kind of do a click and drag to make it a little faster, and that was still a pain in my ass. So I ended up just Google searching how to do this stuff, and once I got one down, then I was like, well, now I can add, instead of having 5 stats every week, I can have like 20, 30, and kind of feed it in that way, and it's just kind of built that way. Just trial and error more than anything.
Cool. And Eric, this is the spreadsheet you're using too, huh?
Yeah, this is the one that Chris has been kind enough to lend me, even since we've been doing the Slurp chat, so it's helped quite a bit, and definitely cuts down on some research time. Just a nice, friendly gesture from a fellow Canuck.
Well, yeah, and I'm sorry I haven't sent it to you, so I will let you check that out as I keep making improvements.
Yeah, this is pretty sweet. So I, like you, began my adventure into statistics and Excel by hand typing everything, which took forever. In fact, that's not true. I typed in some of it, but most of it I copied and pasted and then found a way in Excel to convert that. I started out knowing a little bit about Excel at least. Nowadays, I use some data mining software that does basically what you're talking about. I don't use any indexing, though. I use Microsoft Access, which is kind of a database management system to handle the massive amounts of data, and then I kind of parse that into an Excel spreadsheet. Very similar to this one. Little bit different. I don't use ranks. I use the actual statistics themselves. But very, very similar. I have tournament history and current form in a separate spreadsheet, and I don't necessarily project them the same way, but pretty similar concept. So that's kind of why I the second I saw this, I had about 100 questions in my head, and I'll ask more probably at some point. But for the people at home, we can go ahead and get on into the Wyndham.
Good start.
First and foremost, we've got some serious business to take care of here.
Yeah, your camera's not low enough, pal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to stand up. We don't want to see your face. We just want to see the sign.
Okay.
No one cares about that beautiful beard of yours.
It'll just be in the top. It'll just be in the top. There.
Okay.
Then I can't see my computer screen. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
For those of you who are not sure why, Chris is wearing the "I am the Mike Weir of DFS" sign. It's because he got trounced in the combination low ball that we came up with last week, in which we drafted a low ball team in both slates, and the combination score was the be-all, end-all. I, of course, again, was the winner.
This is getting gross.
At some point, you guys can feel free to beat me. Don't let me win too many times in a row. I know it's fun to watch me dole out these kind of punishments where you guys get avatars and shirts and everything else, but
you were Keegan Bradley for a week, so that's enough joy for all of us.
Yeah, but that wasn't your guys' job.
That doesn't matter. It was gratifying.
Yeah, it was
we
pretty
know you
awful.
lost some bet.
And you know what? That was the week that I had 2 avatar bets for the same week, so thank God I didn't lose them both. because
Yeah.
who knows? I would have had to delete my Twitter, I think, at that point, because it's like gambling with something you can't pay, you know.
Yeah.
But I barely snuck out of that one. So, all right. So that's enough jabber jawing. I think we can go ahead and get right into the Wyndham here. So first and foremost, how'd you guys do last week?
Yeah, I did not bad in the Olympics. My Ricky Fowler, I guess I had probably about, I think it was around 40% Ricky Fowler. That didn't really work out, but I had a bunch of other lineups in that international. I ended up cashing out about $150. I think I was in for 60. I had 3 lineups in that, so made some money there. The John Deere, I only put 1 lineup in. I was really low, and it was actually my low ball lineup, and it won me some money, which makes me sad because I would have rather lost money than make a few dollars on that lineup. So I'm ready to move on.
That's probably what your shirt should have said, huh?
Yeah, I didn't do too bad. I started off pretty solid in the Olympics because I had Fraser and Dillette on a bunch of lineups, but Dillette being Dillette, he kind of faded into the field there. But yeah, it wasn't bad. John Deere, it was probably pretty equal for both. I had some good lineups and then in John Deere as well. Almost took down the Fantasy Golf Degenerates Listener League, and by almost,
I saw that.
And by almost I mean top 5, which is I think one of the better finishes I've had there. So, yeah, it was a good week. I like having 2 tournaments. It was fun to kind of pay attention to both. So, got to go back down to 1 here, but I guess we were spoiled that weekend. It was fun.
Yeah.
I like the Olympics though. It was fun to follow, even though the format probably could have been a bit better. I think a lot of people have been talking about the format.
I think it was
changing.
a success, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, the way it's just the Olympics, you know, putting on a gold medal, like Justin Rose can take that one to the grave, and some guys are definitely probably jealous they missed out on that opportunity, even if they didn't make any money. It's a pretty cool experience.
It's going to be bigger. It's going to be bigger
Yeah.
than the majors. Like, golfers aren't used to it yet. I think the pro golfers, mostly because of the money. But at some point, these guys are going to realize, like, shit, now we have to listen to Justin Rose tell us that he's the gold medal Olympian
For 4
4
years.
fucking years, yeah. And, like, at that point, he's the only, you know what I mean? Like, but in 4 years, they're going to be like, shit, we can't let Justin Rose do
Shut
this
up.
again. Yeah, exactly.
Is
I
it
guarantee,
China?
like,
Japan next time?
I don't know. That's a
Okay,
good
it's
question.
China or Japan. I was looking at the course, and
Okay.
I can't pronounce the name of the course or the city. So
Either way, though.
I think it's Tokyo
gonna be cool.
2020.
Tokyo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
gonna
but
be
either
awesome.
way, I mean,
Matt
yeah,
Dion's
it's
a favorite.
going to be big. I think it's going to be really big.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see if they change the format, but either way, I thought it was great. I mean, these guys don't realize, like, whatever money they make, I don't know what it is, like barely a fraction of if they, you know, like, they could make a cut and finish 50th and make the same amount of money if they won the Olympics, I think. But, you know, it's like the prestige of it is going to be huge in 4 years, and I don't think, like, the guys who missed out this year, I don't think are going to realize that. But in 4 years, they're going to figure that shit out. Jordan Spieth is damn sure going to be there in 4 years. I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah. They almost had a
sucks
major.
that you know, Zika kind of took over, but I feel like if it was any other country, it would have been a little more stacked. I guess
course.
that was their kind of excuse for not going, but
That's possible, but Rio is a vacation spot. Like, Zika, I think, was a little bit overplayed.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that there's some downsides to having it in a country that has some problems, but ultimately, you know, I mean, like Adam Scott said, it was the format that he didn't like. Like, give us back your WGC checks, you fuck. You know, like, how are you going to just cash your $1 million WGC check with the same format and then say that you don't want to go to the Olympics because of the format? Like, that makes no sense.
It's a poor excuse.
Just,
you do it every
ridiculous.
weekend, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 5 times a year or whatever. All right, we've spent enough time. Let's get right into the Wyndham. I've said that 3 or 4 times now. Let's go ahead and combine the 12 through 10K because we've got kind of a small upper tier here. We've got Patrick Reed all the way down to Jimmy Walker at 10K. Mike Weir, why don't you go ahead and kick us off there with your
So
fancy
Mike.
shirt?
Yeah, so we'll start here in Canada, and no. First off, I'm fading Ricky Fowler. I've totally switched. I know the consensus picks last week, I was all over Fowler. I thought it was going to be sneaky. Thought he would come back to form. Fail big time. This week, absolute fade. He just didn't look like he had it. He had a lot of fun, but fun doesn't win tournaments, or does it win his DFS tournaments? So screw him. I'm fading him.
Eric,
Um,
do you want to chime in on that?
yeah. What about anyone have any other Ricky Fowler take?
I don't know.
Opinions there.
I just Fowler seems like he's getting overlooked by everyone this week, and he's the best golfer in this field. Regardless of his recent finishes, I just think that at some point, someone like this is going to put together a good run of golf like he's shown in the past. So I think it's a bad time to kind of sleep on Fowler. He's outside of the Ryder Cup right now. He probably kind of wants to make an impression, even if he doesn't make the top 8. At least make it as a captain's pick. I think this is a good time to get on Fowler in GPPs. I'm not really looking at his recent tournaments. He stands out in the stats categories this week. So if you can get Fowler at an extremely low ownership, it seems like a tournament he can win and kind of just get back into the form that we're used to.
Yeah.
Real quick, I'll chime in on that as well. I agree with Eric on this one. That's why I kicked it over to him, because I mean, we've seen Fowler underperform, but this has been kind of a strange year where we've had a whole string of really big, tough fields, big events, major type atmosphere, and for 2 years basically we've seen Ricky underperform in that scenario. And I guess at this point I think Ricky Fowler has some similarities to like a Matt Kuchar, where I think we're going to see him perform well in some of these weak fields because it's where he has kind of excelled for the past couple of years. We've seen him win and have top 10s in some of these smaller, kind of weaker events, and we've seen him really poorly perform in the major events or the big events. And I think this is a great spot to get back on Ricky. It's very possible that he finishes with a miscut, but I think if you have 20% of Ricky, it's one of the very, very few opportunities where you can get a guy who is 20-1 to win the whole thing at, what do you guys think his ownership's going to be? Under 10% for sure, but could be under 5. I mean, seems like a spot for Ricky, and I think he can win this one.
Okay.
I won't necessarily just pile on Ricky, but I think you don't have to. I think you have 10 to 15% of Ricky, and you're going to be overweight on the field. And this feels like a bounce back spot for Ricky to me. So, Chris, take it away. Continue with this range.
Okay. I just have one more thing on Ricky. Just the only thing that I see with him being that expensive, he's going to have to finish, top. He's obviously going to have to win almost at that price, or finish top, 2 or 3 in DK scoring. And myself, I just don't see that happening. That's why I'm fading him. I definitely 100% on board with you on your take with ownership and stuff. So. I could see people using him for GPP, getting back on board. You want to get back on board before his ownership goes up, before that trend starts going the other way. So I can definitely buy into it, but not myself. So moving on, I guess. My 2 favorite plays are John Rahm and Webb Simpson. Those are the 2 guys in this range I'm going to have a whole bunch of exposure to. Rahm just looks like he's going to be a star on the PGA Tour. He would be right there in the top 5, top 10 in a lot of the strokes gained stats. He hits it a mile. He's an excellent putter. And then Webb Simpson, he fits in all my model. No matter which way I put this model, he fits in the stats. He fits in the tournament history, and his current form's actually been trending pretty good too. He's got 3. He won it in 2011. He's got a 6th last year, 5th in 2014, and even 11th in 2013. Made the cuts 6 straight years since he missed his first cut here in 2009. Those are my 2 favorite guys in the range, and I'm going to be heavy on them, and probably a little sprinkle of Patrick Reed at the very top, because I think he might come in low-owned. Coming off the Olympics, people might fade. I think also that might fade a couple of those Olympian guys at the top. So other than that, that's about it for me in that range.
I guess it's my turn.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
I should
No,
have
no.
passed it off
I'm
there.
just-
Just
My
stop
jaw is to
talking.
the floor. I'm dealing with your spreadsheet right now. It's amazing. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
For me, I will have I'll have enough Fowler to be overweight on him. Hideki is my favorite play because I think we're um, listening to your podcast this morning, Brad. I mean, Kenny broke it down that Hideki's been extremely streaky this year. You know, he started off, just never finishing outside of the top 10, and then he's had this kind of a weird run of missed cuts. I'm seeing a 42nd in there, and then he came fourth at the PGA. So I think this is a good time to get on him because I think this is one of those other hot streaks where he's pumping out top 10. So I think this is a good spot for him here. The finishing score is usually, well, the last 2 years it's been around minus 17, but it's been minus 17 on the nose. So at his birdie or better percentage will put him up in contention, I think, this week. I'm fading Furyk. I think you're paying $11,000 for a career round in the 58 that he had at the Travelers. I think that's a little steep. He hasn't really been showing the best recent history, or recent form. So I'm going to pass on Furyk. I think Moore will be popular, even though he is coming off of a win. So probably more of a cash game because he's a cut maker more than anything. That win was kind of out of nowhere in my eyes, but I agree with Webb. I think he's going to be a good pick, but he looks a little chalky for me, so I'm going to jump down to Jimmy Walker. I think that's a good pivot play. Kind of has that bomber mentality, but at the same time, he has some pretty solid stats that I think will correlate well with this tournament. 18th in birdie or better percentage, decent on the par fours, and he still is 25th in strokes gained tee to green, which is pretty solid for someone who's 127th in strokes gained off the tee. So kind of he sprays it off the tee, but I think this is a decent spot to get him where people kind of may be afraid of him coming off the win at the PGA where, I don't know, I guess like the hangover effect could be in some people's minds, but I like Walker, a pivot off of Simpson.
Cool. So one thing about Hideki, you kind of mentioned the streakiness. There's been a lot of speculation that Hideki has been still battling with an injury, and it's been mostly in the gambling community. They've been talking, I think it's a hip injury they've been talking about, and after having seen a result, I really like the idea of getting back on Hideki here. I don't think I'll, again, it's kind of like a Ricky situation where I'll have some Hideki enough to be overweight on the field. Same with Ricky, but, I could see Hideki finishing top 5 just as easily as I could see him missing the cut again. So, that, to me, that's feels like a good GPP play, especially when there's not going to be a whole lot of people on him with his recent form. Maybe the 4th place bumps that ownership up a little bit, but the guy I like most here is Ryan Moore, and it's not even close. He projects far and away best in this range, and again, it's not even close. Webb Simpson is the closest one behind him, but Ryan Moore, for a lot of the same reasons as last week, is way up there in my projections. For the John Deere Classic, he was 20 points higher than anybody else in my projections, and his DraftKings scoring was about the same way. He scored 140.5 points in DraftKings scoring last week, part of what vaulted me to the top of some GPPs. I came in second in a couple of them. Going to be jumping back on the Ryan Moore train here. I think that he projects well here for a lot of good reasons, and he's had some good results here. He's a past champion here. Ryan Moore makes a lot of sense to me. I'm gonna have probably 50+% of him in my lineups. I like the John Rahm call. I like Webb Simpson, both for kind of the same reasons you guys talked about. I'm not sure I buy into Jimmy Walker, but I think he makes a pretty good. I mean, Eric, what do you think his ownership is going to be?
I see Webb eating up like 25%, so I think Jimmy will probably be in like the 10 to 12 range, which is enough for me. I mean, I just won a major, so at 10,000, I think that's just like underpriced for I guess the form he's in, because he's won. He's got a 14th and a 16th in his last couple finishes. Tied him with a missed cut, but he also came fourth here in 2012. So, just I don't know. I think that people are kind of overlooking Jimmy Walker.
Okay.
What do you have his
I could
percentage
get
at, or his ownership at?
Give me a second. I still have an adjustment to make, but right now I have him at 8.4%.
That's good enough.
Yeah. I mean, he got a pretty significant bump down, and some of that has to do with how he fits this course. I think kind of the general consensus is that bombers are not going to necessarily perform well here. I'm not sure I 100% buy into that narrative, but that's what I've got him at right now, and I think I'll probably leave him around that range. Chris, do you kind of agree with that 8.4, or do you think it's going to be much higher, or where do you see him coming in?
I was thinking 5 to somewhere below 10, so yeah, I think you're right on there with 8. I just think there's enough guys in that top range where he is going to be by far the lowest owned, I think, out of that 10K and up range. Even the guys below him, Snedeker and Haas right below him too.
Okay, well, on that front, let's go ahead and jump down to let's combine the 9 and 8K range. We spent some time on this top range, and then us being dipshits before this, or me being dipshits before this. So let's combine the 9 and 8K range, and Chris, why don't you take us away here?
Yeah, so if you're looking at course history, I'm going to be all over Bill Haas on my cash games for sure. Going to have a little bit in GPP, but he would be my favorite at the top. I think he's going to be chalky as well. There's two guys interesting right below him. I think they're going to come in a lot lower owned because I think Haas and Snedeker, and then going up even to that upper range, are going to take some of that ownership, is Tyrell Hatton and Wesley Bryan. Bryan's looked good since he turned pro, and Hatton's been on a roll lately. He's had a lot of top 20 finishes and in the top 10s in the majors as well. So I think those two guys are going to come in as nice value plays at 93 and 9,400. Kevin Na, anytime we're talking a course where I'm really looking at putting, he's not the greatest in accuracy. I think we're looking for accuracy this week, not just accuracy of hitting the fairways, but placing your shots so that you have a chance to hit these greens because they're smaller and undulating. You really got to have good looks at them. He's not there for accuracy, but his good drive percentage. So I'm looking at that a little bit for guys that are going to be just off the fairway, because if they miss the fairway on the right side, they're still going to have a shot from some of that initial rough. So he fits there. Going down a bit. The William McGirt, Justin Thomas thing, I think McGirt is going to take some of the ownership. He would be more of a cash game play for me, whereas Justin Thomas right below him, I think, makes a little bit more sense in tournaments. He's up. He ranks top 15 in par 4 and 5 scoring, which I really like. I know there's only 2 par 5s on this course, but looking at some of the previous top 10s from the last couple of years, it looks like a lot of the guys are shooting -5 to -8, so they're almost birdieing that hole like every time by. Webb Simpson last year was 11 under on the par 5s, so he just absolutely destroyed the par 5s, but that's usually not the case. Par 4s is where you want to make your scores here because there's, I think, 12 of them. So, but yeah, other than that, that's pretty much my favorite in this zone.
Okay, Eric, you want to chime in here?
Yeah, for me, I think my favorite play I'll just start at the 9K is Brandt Snedeker. I thought his ownership would be low. He's coming off of 56th, I think, at the PGA, which isn't the best finish there. I at least I had higher expectations for him there. But I just like Snedeker this week. I've heard some things about putting is going to be one of those key stats that you look for. And I guess everyone knows that Snedeker is a pretty solid putter. I just like that he's first in par 4 scoring average, which on a shorter course like this, I think it's going to be pretty crucial. So Snedeker is probably my favorite play in the 9K range. I think Wesley Bryan might be pretty chalky. I think he's kind of like the shiny new toy. I'm not sure how many people are going to be. I guess you can split it on Rahm and Bryan there, but people are going to be wanting to use Bryan before I guess, the playoffs, which I don't think he's eligible for. Even if he wins this, I could be wrong with that.
Yeah, he's 194th in the FedEx Cup points, so I think he is eligible. But that's a long. I don't think 500 points is enough.
Yeah, so he could be. This could be like your last chance to use him for a while. So I think his eighth place finish last year will definitely drive his ownership up a bit at 9,300. I usually am on Russell Henley, so I'll just kind of touch on him. But at 9,000, that seems like a lot to pay for someone who is pretty inconsistent with making cuts. I know he's good on par fours and he's kind of like a Jim Furyk light in terms of, he's good at avoiding bogeys, but he ranks 81st in birdie or better percentage. So it's just kind of a stat that kind of scares me for an event like this. So at 9,000, that might be a bit too much to pay for Henley. And I guess I'll jump down into the 8K range where my favorite play is Cabrera Bello, or Bello, however you want to say it. His fifth place finish last week at the Olympics is pretty impressive to me. I feel like a lot of guys were kind of either jumping up the leaderboard early and tailing off, but he seemed to be there the whole week. So he put together 4 pretty consistent rounds, and he's made a ton of cuts this year. So at 8,900, I think that's a good price for someone who's pretty much a lock to make the cut and has a real good shot at finishing inside the top 10.
Cool. I really like that. I guess the couple of guys I'll mention, I've got like 6 to 8 golfers that I really, really love this week. The one that I like in this range the most is Will McGirt. He is the highest projected golfer in my entire model. He's 8,700, which is way too cheap for a guy like that. Statistically, he checks out really well here. I know you kind of talked about him being sort of a cut maker, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. But what we see from these cut maker guys in weak fields like this is a higher floor and a higher ceiling. So, Will McGirt is the type of guy who is, like if he's going to win, it's going to be in a field like this where we don't have the top 8 golfers in the world, Other than that, he's more likely going to finish top 10, top 5 at best, but probably not going to win. But this is a week where there's a lot to like about McGirt, especially his price. He'll make, I think, 60% of my GPP lineups. Like I'm going to go heavy on Gert, and if I get burnt, I get burnt. But most likely with his floor, he's not going to rule me out of any GPPs this week, in all likelihood. Certainly possible, but unlikely. So the other guy that I really like, who I think has slowly become chalk throughout the week, is Kevin Kisner. Again, he projects very well for me. We've started to see him playing some better golf. The 18th place finish at the PGA Championship, 16th place finish at the Bridgestone. He's a guy that has also been kind of streaky, a little bit like Hideki. He had a long span in the beginning of the year or earlier on in the year where he was just crushing everything, and then he fell off the face of a cliff and just sucked shit for a long time, and now we're starting to see that form a little bit. So I like the idea of getting back on Kevin Kisner, although be careful because right now I have him projected as the highest owned golfer in this field at 23%.
Wow.
He's been mentioned a lot, basically everywhere. So I may be a little bit overweight on the projected ownership of Kevin Kisner, but I think he's going to be popular. So just something to keep in mind when you're choosing what ownership percentage you want to be on. One guy that I think neither of you guys mentioned that I'm curious to get your guys' take on is Bill Haas. He has absolutely elite course history here. I'm not sure I love him. I think he makes an okay cash play, He's been playing decent golf. He's been a little bit hit or miss. Has some upside though, and definitely has good course history here. So, what are you guys going to do with Bill Haas?
Yeah, I agree with you that he's going to be pretty much just a cash game play for me this week. Looking at his birdie or better percentage, he's like 180th this year, and that's just not going to get it done for GPPs for DK scoring. But I mean, he's an excellent scrambler. He's top 20 in scrambling and bogey avoidance. So those are some things I look for in my cut makers for cash games. So, and with that scrambling, he's also top 20 and around the green, 32nd in approach. So he's strictly a cash game play for me. Eric?
My initial thought was, he's going to be highly owned just because of his tournament history. But it seems like he throws in the odd top 10, top 5, like every so often. So this definitely could be one of those events where, his current form's kind of streaky, but I guess if he's comfortable here, he could easily come within the top 10. I was kind of afraid of him just because of his tournament history, and I think that's what a lot of people kind of look at. I don't know what you have him projected at, but I thought him and Webb were kind of going to be the chalky kind of horses this week.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, he'll be popular because of that, and that was one of my concerns. But it's hard to ignore this type of course history. He projects really poorly for me, which is part of why I'm a little bit hesitant with Bill Haas. But I've been in this situation before with my projections where a guy does not project very well but has continued for whatever reason, we'll call it unquantifiable, although it may be, has continued to have these really good results. And we've seen it with different guys at different events, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it's confidence, I don't know what it is, but it happens and it sort of breaks my projections. So I don't know. I kind of walk the line a little bit with these types of guys, and I think Bill Haas is one of these guys, and this is one of those situations where you have to consider throwing out the numbers and whether or not there's something that is not taken into account in your statistics or your model. So may have a little clip of Bill Haas now. So something to think about at least for those of you out there who are statistics driven as well. So let's get down into this 7K range. I'll kick us off. I think he's going to be sort of chalky this week. Jason Duffner is the guy I like here. I think he's the obvious play. Seems underpriced in this field. He's made all kinds of cuts this year. I don't know how many cuts he's made, but I know it's a lot. He's just a cut maker every year, it seems like.
19 of 22.
What's that?
Yeah, high percentage.
19 of 22.
Yeah, 19 of 22. So that doesn't surprise me. He I guess again, this is a week where I'm going to be kind of targeting some of these sort of cash type plays that have some upside. I mean, we've seen Jason Duffner win tournaments, seems like every year, and although he's a cut maker, there are times where I think these guys have enough upside to roster them pretty heavily in GPPs, and I think this is one of those times. I think Jason Duffner fits the mold, and in sort of a similar sense, I think Danny Lee does as well. Danny Lee is way underpriced, I think, at 7,300. I mean, we're talking about a guy who has been up there in price. I mean, he's been. Give me 1 second. He's been way up there in price. So he was 9,100 at one point, multiple times throughout the year. So he's been over 9K. And to me, if Danny Lee came in with, like in the same range as Russell Henley and Kevin Na, like are you that surprised this week?
No, I hear you.
To me, like yeah. I don't think that's a far cry to see Danny Lee come in at 9K or whatever, and he's 7,300. He's way too cheap. I think to me it feels like a kind of an overreaction to the back missed cuts he has, but I mean back-to-back missed cuts on this course.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to look into that too much. I'm willing to jump on Danny Lee, and I'm probably going to jump on Danny Lee in a pretty decent way this week. So, Chris, why don't you follow up here and tell me who you agree or disagree with, and if there's anybody else here you want to cover.
No, you touched on Duffner. I think he's chalky, but definitely going to have some of him. He's just underpriced, and he makes it easy to build. I got a lot of balanced lineups this week. You can build quite a few in the 7-8K range without even going up to the top guys. So he's definitely in the bulk of those lineups for me. Robert Garrigus always sticks out. He's got a 5th and a 22nd in his recent form. He missed the cut at this tournament last year, but he's gotten 11th here in 2013, so he does have some success here. And just looking, one thing I'm looking at this week is proximity a little more than greens in regulation. He's first in 6th overall proximity, but he's first in proximity from that 150 to 175 and 175 to 200 range. And then even he's top 10 and 200 plus. I mean, he's just phenomenal with his approaches. So if he can hit the fairways this week, he's about 111th there in driving accuracy. But if he can hit the fairways, I think he can make some birdies, and he's one of those guys that I just think in this range can make it inside the top 10, top 5, even have a chance of winning top 10 birdie or better percentage. So he's one of my GPP plays that I'm heavy on this week. Harris English, I know the form 60th, 46 isn't that great. He's not really there with the accuracy side of things. He's kind of feels like a Jimmy Walker play for me, kind of like a cheaper Jimmy Walker play, I guess you could say. He finished 31st last year, 10th in 2012, so he also has some course history here as well. Digging down a little deeper in the 7s, I don't think he can go wrong with Jerry Kelly and Cash. He's got great course history here as well. Other than that, really not a whole bunch. A little sprinkle of Kokrak at the bottom there. Right at 7. One thing I'm looking at is that FedEx Cup points this week, and just sitting outside is
Save
Bud
some
Cauley.
for me.
Yeah, sorry about that. I wasn't here last week, so I'm just trying to let everyone hear me talk here for a little bit.
You act like that's our fault.
Yeah, it's my internet.
We got sick of hearing you talk, and we just booted you or something.
Unplug them.
Well, my internet was working fine. I'm sure you guys just hit end, get him the hell out of here. But yeah, Bud Cauley. He sits just outside the top 125, 12th around the green, 4th in good drive percentage. He does have some distance, and he's good in those proximity 150 to 175 and 175 to 200. So he's my guy right at $7,000. I'll have a bunch of him too. Eric, you want to touch on those one or two guys I didn't talk about?
Yeah, there's not much left here.
They're all fades.
I do like Duffner. I'm a big fan of Garrigus this week. I was kind of on him last week. A little disappointing with a 22nd finish, but his stats really fit this course pretty well. Yeah, Bud Cauley, another one of my favorites. I liked him last week. He came 8th, so I'll return the favor and put him back in a few more lineups. He's first in par 5 scoring average. I know there's only 2, but if he can, make a couple eagles before the cut, he should have a good finish this week. I'll touch on our Canadian boy here, Adam Hadwin at 7,400. I've kind of forgiven him since he kind of let me down in one of our bets. He finished 8th last week at the John Deere, and this is kind of like another one of those putting. When putting shows up, I like Hadwin. He's 14th in strokes gained putting, 5th in putting average, and he's also 24th in birdie or better percentage. So I think this is an event he can compete in. He's coming off some shaky form, so that 8th, I like to see that 8th finish at the John Deere to gain a little confidence. Trying to see who else is left in this range that I could even talk about. If you want to take a super flyer on someone, I don't recommend it. I don't really know why he's in this tournament. Is Shane Lowry. It just doesn't seem like kind of an event a Euro guy would play. Straight missed cuts and his stats really don't match up with this. But I'm just saying, at like 7,800, that's kind of like some name value. You're getting a decent discount in. He ranks 1 king, so like this is just like a pure GPP play, but he definitely has the ability to come, I don't know, top 10. I feel like if he can put it together for 4 rounds, that's a decent flyer to take.
Okay. Shane Lowry's 90th in the FedEx Cup, but it seems really unlikely that he would drop that far. So I
don't know
if that's the reason that he's playing.
Maybe just he's getting prepped for it. I don't know what. He didn't play last weekend, or I guess his last tournament was the PGA.
Yeah.
I just, at 7,800,
it could be that he wants to get overseas and.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it's just a name you've seen linger around the top of leaderboards before. So at 7,800, I think you're getting a decent discount on someone who can come inside the top 10.
Yeah, he's over 100 points to the good in the standings. So that's definitely not it's only, I think, 500 for first and like 300 for second. So I don't think that would be why he's playing. Yeah, I agree with you there. It doesn't seem like an event that he should be in. Maybe he's just getting ready for the playoffs. I don't know. You're going to be really low owned. I think you're dead on there.
You guys left me so few guys. I just had to throw in Shane Lowry there just because it's a name I recognize.
I like it. All right, well, why don't you kick us off then in the 6K range, and you can. I'll go last. You guys can leave very few here.
Okay. You put me on the spot. All right. I think my favorite golfer. Again, I'm gonna.
You weren't prepared for this.
I was expecting to go last and just kind of clean up the garbage. I think at 6,500, David Hearn is a good value. Didn't really perform that well at the Olympics, but he played really well on Sunday, which is encouraging for me. He got himself back into the top 30. He comes in 12th in my weighted stat rankings, mainly because of his what is it here? His proximity from 150 to 175. He's 24th. Strokes gained approach is 22nd. So he hasn't been putting the best string of golf together, but he's been playing probably his best season in his career. So I think this is a good spot for him and kind of like an accuracy track. Kind of he's 15th in good drive percentage, which is something I'm looking at. So David Hearn in 6,500 is one I like. God damn. Who else do I like in this range? Come on, guys, help me out. Actually, I'll pass it on to Chris here because I'm drawing a blank on who I have rostered in the 6K range.
I got 2 guys right around David Hearn.
I didn't go down far enough. That's all right. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to touch on 2 guys right around David Hearn there. I like Henrik Norlander right above him. He's 163rd in the FedEx Cup. I think that's a little far out, but Wynn could get him in definitely, so that's never out of range. But what I like is he's made 8 straight cuts on the PGA Tour and 11 of the last 12. I'm not counting the Barracuda because whatever, that's the Barracuda. So just regular 72-hole events, he's made 11 of his last 12 cuts. So I would consider him. None of them have been top 20. One top 25. So I'm not really looking at him in GPP, but I think he makes a viable cash game play if you want to go more of a stars and scrubs, I guess you could say, and you want to dip down into this mid 6K range. And then right below David Hearn is Sean Stephanie. He's only 8 places out of the FedEx Cup playoffs, so I think he'll be here to play this week. I like his proximity from 150 to 175 as well as 175 to 200. He's made 2 cuts here in 2014 and 2013, 51st and 45, so there's nothing really high end, but I just think that he's going to be pushing it this week, and I think he's a guy you can also consider, I think, in any format as well. I think I'll have him in cash games as well as GPP. Did you find anyone else that you were liking there?
I'll let Brad go. I kind of like, I guess I'm the garbage man. I like cleaning up the scraps here.
Okay. All right.
Garbage man.
That. Oh, I wasn't prepared. I didn't know we would talk about the 6K guys.
What do you guys, I guess, I'll ask you guys a question then. I got a couple guys I want to ask you guys about. First guy is Camilo Villegas. He seems like more of a GPP play. He's got awesome...
Damn it! I was just going to talk about Villegas.
Oh, I stole him. See, don't hesitate.
How could you do this
just
to me?
Jump right in there. He's got great course history. He's coming off 2 missed cuts. I think he could be low owned, and I think he's got the upside to. At that price, I'll take a top 20, but I think he's even capable of a top 10. What's your take on him?
Real similar. I mean, Vajegas is a guy who I tend to roster like 3 or 4 times a year because he has elite course history at like 3 or 4 courses all year, basically. Yep. I mean, he's previous winners at the same damn courses. It seems like, he's made cuts for 10, 15 years straight, and this is just the same situation. And he almost always seems to come through. Like, when he has really good course history, it seems like he rides that train. And a floor for this week seems like a top 25 or a top 30. I mean, yeah, we've seen him finish outside of that, but the fact that he's made 5 straight cuts at this event and a win and a top 10, I don't know. I've seen this so many times with Camilo Villegas that I'm so comfortable just penciling him in. I mean, when he has this course history, he's the guy that follows through on it, and I'll have him in cash, at least one of my cash lineups, and I'll definitely have him in GPPs as well for the same reason. So I like to call on Villegas. One guy that I love that you guys did not mention, Chez Reavie. I mean, 2 of the top stats that I'm looking at are bogey avoidance and scoring average adjusted, and Chez Reavie has far and away the best scoring average adjusted in this range and one of the better in the field. And his combination of bogey avoidance and then his approaches from 150 to 200, basically 2 separate ranges, 150 to 175 and 175 to 200, are phenomenal. I mean, he checks out in so many ways in this field statistically, and he's 6,300. You have to have basically nothing of him. I'm going to have probably 40% of Chez Reavie. I really, really like Chez Reavie this week. He's a low-price guy, so there's going to be some volatility in his results, and that's fairly standard. But I think in terms of general skill, he's a very talented golfer, and he is way too inexpensive and fits this course to a T. So I'm going to have a lot of Chez Reavie. I'll circle back to Brian Harman. I do want to mention him and talk to you guys about him. But the other guy, I like Henrik Norlander, cash. I know, Chris, you just talked about him. I think he makes tons of sense in cash. I will be going down to this range in cash. I talked about having Villegas in cash. Norlander will also be in one of my cash lineups, possibly 2, and probably Chez Reavie may be in a couple. So I'm going to kind of have a stars and scrubs type cash feel. In fact, I've had a hard time filling the entire salary cap because of that fact. I like these guys enough that, you start with McGirt, throw in Reavie, you can consider Villegas or Norlander or both, and you've got, you pick your players from there. I mean, you can't. And then, even really, you put Jason Duffner in the mix there, and it's hard to fill a salary cap this week for me with cash. And I'm going to probably leave, I don't know, hundreds on the table, possibly thousands because of that. So first question here, do you guys agree or disagree with Chez Reavie? And then tell me what I'm missing with Brian Harman, because I know he has some sort of piss-poor course history. He's got 4 missed cuts and 5 tries, 1 third-place finish for whatever the hell that's worth. And he's coming off back-to-back missed cuts here. But Brian Harman seems like a player. First of all, he's projecting really well for me, but more than that, he seems like the type of player who could very, very easily have a top 10 finish here. I think he checks out pretty well on this course. So question number 1, what am I missing with Brian Harman? Question number 2, is my strategy in cash something that's viable, taking 2 or 3 of these guys way down here? Eric, why don't you answer a couple of those questions for me?
Yeah, I think your cash strategy is pretty spot on. This week kind of seems like softer pricing was enforced on some of these lower guys. Like I agree with your Chez Reavie take. I kind of glanced over him, but he does rank he ranks third in my weighted stats ranking, so maybe I'm just blind and I didn't see that. But he definitely checks. He, he- I don't know what you're seeing in Brian Harman. I think you talked about him last week too. You kind of got a little man crush on Brian Harman, but he doesn't have that many good high finishes. I don't know what stats are kind of. I guess it's stats that are driving your model. Maybe the par 4 scoring where he's 32nd, and maybe some putting where he's 16th in strokes gained putting. But I'm not feeling it on Brian Harman at all. Just seems like limited upside. His best finish as of late is 8th at the Barbasol, from what I can see, and then just a bunch of pretty mediocre finishes. So, yeah, I'll be probably the last guy to tout Brian Harman.
So
yeah,
to answer your question about Brian Harman,
to be nice,
one of the biggest stats that stands out for him, putts made per event over 10 feet.
Okay.
For whatever it's putting basically, but for whatever reason, that is the stat that seems to show up for cut making, for projections. For me, it finds its way into a lot of my models for whatever reason as a predictive statistic. So take that with a grain of salt. Yeah. I do, and that's part of why I'm asking about him, because this number that shows up doesn't really exactly align with kind of my thinking on the situation, I guess. But I've seen it too many times where this number has pointed to a guy who, to me, just intrinsically doesn't make sense, but finds his way into the top 10. I don't know. So, yeah, like I said, take it with a grain of salt for what it's worth. But Chris, tell me what you think about those couple of questions.
Well, that's interesting talk on Brian Harman. I'm not sure why we're spending so much time on him. It seems we've got more time on him than anyone else. I agree with you on putting. Another thing that stands out for him that I like is his par 4 scoring. He's 32nd in that, so I mean, a guy at 6,300 that makes his score on the par 4s like that in a course with 12 par 4s, you'd think he would fit here. I just don't, myself, I don't like the tournament history, even though he's got a third spotted in there, and the current form. Just combine that all together. I'm fading him, but I can definitely see merit. I was totally 100% just overlooked him completely, but you've got me thinking about him a little bit anyway, but I don't think I'm going to make that last minute call. I like Reavie. You talked about Reavie right above him there at that 6,300 price range. So I like that. And then to your cash game question, I do like that a lot, actually. I'm kind of doing 2 cash games, one very similar to that. I'm only using 2 guys in the 6K range, and then kind of going up. Duffner's in there, and then going up a little higher. And then the other one is a little more balanced, all the guys in the 7, 8K range, kind of making it work that way as well. So I like these tournaments in these weeks where we can go and grab 2 or 3 of these 6K guys and actually feel fairly comfortable with them. And then I really take a lot of those, 5, 6 of those guys in that 6K range, and I'll mix them in with my favorite plays in the 10, 11K range for tournaments as well. But as for cash, you were asking about cash. I love it. I love the strategy.
Awesome. I like it. So let's drop down into this 5K range. I'll kick us off because I don't have much to talk about. Justin Leonard, I think, is worth mentioning. I'm going to have a clip of him. I'll take a sprinkle of a couple of these guys, I think, this week in GPP formats. I think Justin Leonard probably is the one I like the most down here. Actually, the other guy I really like is HV3.
Oh yeah.
Well, let me go back to Justin Leonard. Justin Leonard's course history here is very, very good. Top 20s in 4 of 5 tries here. He's made every cut in all 5 tries. Has a 3rd place finish as his highest finish. I think course history alone is enough for me to take a little sprinkle of Justin Leonard at 5,800, and then I don't know. I'll leave it there. If you guys have anything else to add on Justin Leonard, I think with 3 miscuts in his 3 recent events and how poor he ranks out statistically, I think Justin Leonard is like a free pick. You can take him as a free spot in 5 to 10% of your lineups. And if he finishes 15th or whatever he's done for most of the time he's ever played this event, then fantastic. And if not, then you're out 5% of your lineups. It's no big deal. So HV3 is the other guy I mentioned. I really, really like HV3. His Vegas odds are too much for me to ignore. His odds, when I pulled them to start the week, this is kind of an aggregated over a bunch of different websites, but 125 to 1. And at 5,900, that's a mile off in terms of price. I mean, I project him at 6,800 in price, and he's 5,900, which is a huge discrepancy. And it's these projections are, I mean, very heavily Vegas based, so they're pretty good. I mean, for the most part, they're pretty close. So, my salary projections are almost 1,000 off, which means that we're getting tons of value on HV3. I don't know how well he really suits this course, but I'm going to have probably 15% of HV3, and I'm going to be dabbing all over the place when he shows up and does something. And hopefully we can get Zach Woods out of retirement if he shows up and wins the tournament. Maybe we can talk Zach Woods into coming back on the pod, because I feel like I've probably asked him every week.
Miss that guy. I miss that guy.
Yeah, I know.
To be honest,
what's not to love about Zach Woods,
I just want to add to your HV3 saying he doesn't really fit the course. One thing I was looking at, I like distancing guys, but it's with every week for me. With that distance, I always go look at total driving, and he's 25th in total driving. So I really like that about him. He's top 35 in his proximity from 175 to 200 and 200 plus. I know we're stretching it out because he's got distance. He's probably not going to have too many approaches from that distance. But 11th in par 5, I think he's one of those guys that can really attack the par 5s, even though there's 2 of them, and finish in that -8, -9 range for the week on the par 5s, which could easily get him in the top 25.
Awesome. Is there anyone else you want to cover in this 5K range?
This week I actually have quite a few. I wouldn't say quite a few, but I usually have 0 guys in this range. But mostly the takes this week for me are going to be the guys that are sitting outside the FedEx Cup points. So right below HV3, you got Bronson Burgoon at 130. He hasn't played here before. I don't know exactly how he fits. I'm just kind of looking at the angle of outside the points there. Another guy looking at the Vegas, mentioning the Vegas there, Spencer Levine at 5,900 as well. I had him at early. This was Monday morning, Monday afternoon. His odds were 101, so he's right in that Harold Varner where you're getting everyone else around him in this range is 200, 250, 350, 400 to 1 to win. So seeing those guys in that 100, it's a lot of value when you're under 6K. Going down even farther, looking at some guys, I have to go pretty far here. Chris Stroud is another one. He's had spotty success here, spotty success this season, but he again 132nd, so he's 7 positions out of the FedEx Cup points. And I think that's about it from what I can see. Michael Thompson's in a similar position at 144th. He actually has better course history. He's played here 3 times in the last 5 years, 25th and 2011. He's made all 3 of those cuts. So I think he could be a GPP viable play. He's got excellent proximity, top 15 overall and 20th from that 150 to 175. And then he's also 16th in birdie or better. So I really think Michael Thompson has a shot to make the FedEx Cup playoffs with a strong finish this week.
Alrighty, Eric, you got some guys to cover down here?
HV3 I like a lot. I think Bryce Mulder is underpriced for just kind of the season he's been having. He's 76th in the FedEx Cup rankings, so at 5,700. and he's definitely been in the high 7Ks in some of these events, kind of in April and May. So I think that's a good value play there. I think David Toms withdrew, so just note that. Yeah, not too much else. You guys kind of took care of the rest of this list, but yeah, let's get on to the bet.
Before we go any further, I have a question to ask you guys, and I wouldn't have noticed this if I wasn't scouring around the Monday qualifier this week. I was watching the leaderboard, and I noticed a name that everybody was on just not too long ago. Bryson DeChambeau was like 8 strokes back of the guy who made it into the qualifier. What do you guys make of DeChambeau and his future?
Oof.
That blows my mind that he went from having these exemptions and actually looking like he had, you know, a immediate future on the PGA Tour, and then just all of a sudden that there he sits. He's missing Monday qualifiers to, you know, to try and make some money and try and get a tour card.
Yeah, I tweeted a hot take out a while back. It was months ago, saying that, you know, just basically all it said was hot take. Bryson DeChambeau doesn't get his card.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I didn't really have any specific basis for that, other than I think people overreacted to the fact that they thought he was God's gift to golf this year. I mean, for a while. I personally think that Jon Rahm and Wesley Bryan have a lot more
pedigree.
Yeah, I mean, there's more. There's evidence there. You know what I mean? DeChambeau wears a funky hat and has a interesting set of clubs. He's got talent. There's no question he has talent. But to me, I mean, Jon Rahm is in the top of every statistical category, and the second that he becomes active on the PGAtour.com rankings, people are going to be all over him. So, you know, come fall season, I'm gonna have so much Jon Rahm and Wesley Bryan, it's not gonna be funny. I mean, one of these guys is gonna win a PGA Tour event in the fall swing season, just like Grillo and Smiley Kaufman. I mean, we've seen it over and over.
Even Kistner.
These guys are gonna win.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of these guys is gonna win in the fall swing season. It's just a matter of time. They're probably both gonna win at some point throughout the next season where they have exemptions. You don't win 3 times on the Web.com tour without having some sort of pedigree and some sort of skill. So, I don't know. That's kind of my take on it. Cool. At some point, we could see DeChambeau on tour as a mainstay, but until I see it, I'm not going to count my chickens, you know?
Sorry for taking us off the rails there. That really has been bugging me since Monday morning.
Yeah, sorry for ranting. I like ranting.
I just got you going there. I just threw some fuel on the fire, that's all.
I mean, I've talked about it before. You know,
I didn't bring up one guy, and I'll just leave it at that. That's good. We can move on to the contest now.
Okay, so why don't you set us up for this contest? You've got something planned here. You've been thinking about it all week since I told you have to wear a Mike Weir sign. So,
yeah, I thought I'd come up with a contest.
What secret advantage are you gonna plug into this contest you got going this week?
Well, I don't know if there's going to be a secret advantage or not. Hey, what were you going to say, Eric? Sorry.
I was just going to say, Brad, get the invite out so we don't take,
I got it.
You know,
I actually sent an invite out to you guys. I got everything under control.
Wow, look at you.
I was really shitty last week, so I have to be on top of my game this week.
He's got an invite. Wow.
Okay, so the contest this week, seeing as it's the last regular season event before the playoffs, we have to draft 6 guys. Doesn't matter with salary, but they all have to be outside of the top 125 in the FedEx Cup standing. So on my spreadsheet that you guys got open there, the guys in green aren't available. All the guys in red are. One thing I wanted to ask you guys is the guys that aren't eligible. So the guys in black there, you got Rahm, Hatton, Cabrera Bello. Are we allowing them? That was kind of going to be my secret sauce there, but seeing as I don't get to pick first because I suck, I guess we can decide first.
Wesley Bryan's available, so I feel like those guys should be.
Okay, they're all available. If they're not green, they're available. Let's rock and
roll. Other than that, it goes down to Bud Cauley, which is at 7K. So.
Right. Yeah. Deal.
We can have someone who's decent at golf.
All right, so do I draft first?
You're
Yeah,
first
you
because
get to
you
go
keep fucking winning.
All right.
I'm going
I'm not
second.
angry. And I am third.
There you go.
All right. I will take Chalkmaster in this format, John Rahm. For the first draft in the 2016 FedEx Cup draft. I don't know. We gotta think of a funny nickname for this. All right, who's next?
I'll go Bayo.
Okay.
Chris is up for 2.
Tyrell Hatton. I'll
Good
take
choice. The
one of those
only
guys.
reason he's here is to try and qualify for this thing.
Can he qualify?
I mean-
I see he's not on the standings, but if he wins, he's in, right?
Well, yeah, he has to basically win. I think I
That's
heard
what I thought.
on the Pat Mayo Hour, J. Lude was talking about it. I think basically like this is not an event that Hatton would be at if it weren't for the fact that he was within range, and he basically has to win. Like I'm pretty sure a win is the only thing that gets him in.
Yeah.
A win or maybe a second place, but he's right there. So I like that call.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'll go him, and then for my second pick, I might as well take the other chalky guy in this. I actually like this back-to-back. I'll go Brian.
I think Brad was at a disadvantage this week for going first.
I think
yeah,
so.
Pretty sure that's why Chris picked it.
Caught him off guard. You watch. Hatton and Brian are going to miss
Put me
the
in a
cut, and I'm
spot
going to look
where I
like a
just can't
jackass
win,
again.
right? Exactly, yeah. Yeah, make it impossible for me to win. That's good.
I'm going Bud Cauley.
Oh, shit. Nice.
So Chris Brad gets 2.
Okay. Give me a second to compare these to my projections because I haven't.
This is like the first week where I really noticed Bud Cauley or really looked into much about him, but Jesus, he fits in a lot of stats.
Like realize that he existed.
Yeah, like he's a human. He golfs too. We have something in common. He's good at it.
I'm gonna go with Norlander. And who the fuck is Jerry Kelly? He has to exist down here somewhere, right?
Oh, he's in the FedEx Cup.
He's in.
Is he really?
He's in the hundreds, 90s maybe even.
77.
No kidding. Damn you.
Who did you say?
Jerry Kelly.
Glover?
Glover? No, fuck
Who did
that.
you say? Who did you
You
say?
said Kelly.
Oh, Jerry Kelly, right.
Yeah. Okay.
77. Holy shit.
God damn, I'm finding out a lot of the guys I like are way up there in the FedEx. I'm like, okay, Reevy's got to be down here, right? Okay, I'll take Vajegas then.
Yeah, there's your boy. I will go Retief Goosen.
Shit. I said him earlier, and now I just got to find him. Okay, I'm going to go Michael Thompson for the first one. Type him in. And then... where is he? Sean Stefani. Or is it Stephanie? Either way.
We know.
Nobody really knows.
No. He never clarifies either.
All right, I will go Steve Wheatcroft. I almost threw up saying that name. I've never put him on a roster in my life.
God damn, Kyle Reifers is 51st in the FedEx Cup.
Is that like didn't look at this until this week, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of surprises for me.
What the fuck happened to the FedEx Cup that Kyle Reifers is 50th?
Used to be prestigious.
I like him though. I got him projected well. Shit. Okay.
Siwoo Kim surprised me up there too. Ahead of him at 43, or Castro at 56.
Tournament though. Siwoo Kim is like, when's the last time you didn't have the opportunity to roster Siwoo?
True, he is in every goddamn field.
Like he must have played 100 tournaments this year. Okay. So, man, this is a garbage pile. How do you pick?
Who chose this format? Fuck.
All right, I'm gonna go with the ultra sleeper pick here, Miguel Angel Carballo,
Ooh.
and then we're gonna go and swoop up Justin Leonard, who hasn't been taken, right?
Nope.
Okay.
All right, I'm up. I will go. Sam Saunders, 14th here last year.
I like it.
I'm going to go Kyle Stanley.
You got another one
I
there,
really
Chris.
All
like
right.
Kyle Stanley. I don't know why.
I'm going to go Canadian. I'll go Nick Taylor last.
And I'll go. No one's taking Bronson Burgoon, right?
Correct. I was looking at his name though.
Wow, I left 9,700 on the table for this team. Good squad.
Are you gonna throw it? The question is, are you actually gonna throw it into something? You gotta put it in the quarter arcade.
All right, I'll put it in.
Okay, so let's see here. Bud Colley's been taken, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Bro, where are you getting these Vegas odds? These are fantastic.
Bet Victor. They're not. I should have updated them since Monday though, because I imagine there's some change in a lot of
Yeah, I
guys.
got Scott Stallings at 90 to 1.
I know,
That
which
seems a bit
doesn't.
high,
Wait,
lower,
let me
I
see
guess.
what. Yeah, let me see what I've got him at.
What I'm going to do next week is take a look at the odds when they first come out, and then Wednesday, and then compare them plus minus.
I've got him at 145 to 1.
Yeah, see, there's a big drop.
Still
Yeah.
seems, for Scott Stallings, that seems a poor bet.
Okay, so I have one more to pick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned it in our chat before, but I didn't before we started drafting, so it's up to you guys if we want to keep the bonus points going, but I was mentioned earlier, give 5 bonus points if your guy that you do pick makes it inside the top 125 at the end of the tournament.
Oh, well, shit, that changes things.
Yeah, that's why I said I don't think we'll do it now because we already started
Yeah,
drafting.
let's not do that.
You would have been
Because
taking
otherwise,
guys around the cusp.
Marino and Nick Taylor and all these
The
jabronis
top
will
guys
have
have
enough.
more value for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I am stuck. I'm going to go ahead. Is Brian Stewart? No, Brian Stewart's not even down here, is he? God damn, Brian Stewart's 75th? Fuck me. I
He
gotta start
won this
paying
year,
attention
didn't he?
to
I
this
feel like
shit.
that's an
Jesus.
automatic berth. Yeah.
Okay. All right, screw this. I'm just gonna pick somebody. This is awful.
This is how I felt the first low ball ever. Is how you sound right now. It's great.
This is not my
Just-
fault though. Okay, low ball existed before this. You made
This
this
is true.
up.
I totally made this up.
Oh my god. Okay. Give me a second. I'm sorry. I know this is awful. I'll go Scott Pinkney.
He played decent last weekend, didn't he? Yeah.
Don't you think I know that?
I thought you were
There
going
you
to go
go.
Stuart Appleby.
No.
Guy's in
There's
jail.
some upside there.
Cool.
Or
Right.
Allenby. I always get those guys
That-
confused.
Jesus, that was like pulling teeth. We're gonna have to start picking easier formats, I think, because
Yeah, we're doing
the
some deep formats.
the people that have come here to witness our chat are falling asleep at the wheel
Long
here.
gone.
They're dead. They're 65 at this point. They're all retired. Hopefully from DFS winnings from our touts. Yeah, so I think that's going to do it. Is there anything
Cool.
else you guys want to add?
I got nothing.
No, I'm done.
I said everything that was inside.
Okay. Chris, why don't you tell the people where they can find you?
You can run over to dailyfantasysportsrankings.com, DFSR for short. You can see I got my article up there, free article, and in the article is the link to the cheat sheet that we're all looking at this week. Not doing lineups anymore, I used to provide a sample lineup, not doing that anymore because DraftKings has kind of got some regulations in place. So what I did was just kind of did some tiered rankings for the 10K range, 9K, 8K, 7K, 5 and 6K guys. So change it up a little bit there, and you can check me out on Twitter at Jaeger_bombs9.
Cool. Eric?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at epattersonfs. I write a weekly column for DFS On Demand, and you can find me here every Wednesday night talking with you two.
Do you miss us before Wednesday night?
I look forward to it every week. This is like my weekend. This is like my Friday night right here.
Yeah, I've organized all my articles so I don't have to write any articles on Wednesday nights.
Might as well be a party, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, you guys. Show the people one more time. Show them the sign, Chris.
Yeah, that's
Let me stand up.
signed in. Get
Is that
enough
good?
screen
Let me
time.
get close. Yeah, right there.
It should be.
Wait, hold on,
It should
one
be
more.
your Twitter picture.
I'm going to.
I
I took snapshots while we were doing our chat, and I'm going to change my Twitter picture just for you guys. That's how much I like you guys.
Wow. Increasing the punishment on his own.
Yeah.
Well, that's why
I'm
I
a
asked
team
you
player.
to show it, because here I was in the middle of screenshotting it, so I couldn't do that. I guess if you're gonna do it yourself, I'll let you.
Cool, guys.
All right. Well,
Oh, where's
I
Brad?
think,
Where do we find you?
yeah, I think that's gonna do it. You guys can catch me on Twitter at Brad Messersmith, MESSER Smith. You can find my shit everywhere. TheFantasyFanatics.com is where I do my ownership projections. Catch me on
Found
the
it in the grocery
podcast.
store.
Huh?
You said you could find it anywhere. I seen it in the grocery store the other day.
Which grocery
You-
store?
you-
I didn't know it was
you-
that famous.
You were trending in the co-op. Just kidding. Sorry.
Oh, dude, I need to be getting some money for that. Jesus, I didn't know. No. You guys catch my work on DraftKings Playbook. I write a love-hate article every week. DFSOnDemand.com. We got a Euro Tour article up again this week for the first time in a while. We did the Olympics last week, but really the Euro slate has not been around for a little bit, so go check that out. And last but not least, find me here next Wednesday. Don't forget, mark your calendars, and we will catch you guys next time.
Peace.